Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. Out here in the vault, the stories aren't just told, they're remembered. They linger like damp air in the walls, like eyes on your back when you're sure you're alone. And this one never wanted to be forgotten, because once you hear it, you'll start checking behind every door you thought was closed. Michelle Ortega was a nurse, 35, sharp, no nonsense, and recently laid off from her job at Mercy West. She wasn't spiritual, didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in stress, insomnia, and the power of ambient noise to explain things that went bump in the night. So when a private agency offered her a live-in caretaker contract, isolated, rural, and quiet, she accepted without hesitation. It was good money. No boss breathing down her neck, no charts, no patients rolling in on gurneys at 3 a.m. Just one client, Wallace Ivers. Wallace lived in a faded farmhouse in the coal hills of Pennsylvania. He was 92, mute from a stroke, and, according to the file, mentally still present, though unresponsive. The family? There wasn't any, just an old house and a man in a bed. When Michelle arrived, she was surprised by how intact the house seemed. No mold, no broken windows, just neglected. The wallpaper in the hallway was bubbling at the seams, and every floorboard had its own complaint, but the place was dry, solid, the kind of house that felt like it used to be alive. There were 3 bedrooms on the second floor. Michelle was given the first. Wallace was in the second. The third, at the end of the hallway, was locked. The agency said not to worry about it. It was being used for storage. Michelle didn't press the issue. Not then. The first night, she barely slept. Not because of the man. He didn't make a sound. It was the house. She swore she heard footsteps above her, even though there was no attic. And once, just past midnight, she heard her own door creak open, slow. But when she sat up, it was closed again. The next morning, she found muddy footprints in the hallway. Barefoot, human, but smaller than hers. She checked Wallace's feet. Clean, cold, unmoving. The man didn't even twitch when she pulled his blanket away. The second night was worse. Michelle dreamed of a whisper, not words, just breath, right against her ear. When she woke, her bedroom window was wide open. No wind, no storm. Just silence, and the faint smell of soil. She told herself she was being paranoid, that the mind plays tricks when it's alone too long. But then, she heard something knocking from inside the third room, not loud, just once. Then silence. She called the agency. They told her, "There's no need to check the third room. Wallace doesn't go in there. Just keep your focus on patient care." She didn't mention the footprints, or the voice she'd heard calling her name from the staircase when she was brushing her teeth. But by the 4th night, Michelle started locking her bedroom door, and every morning she found scratches just beneath the doorknob, small, thin, as if made by a child's fingernails. And the third door, still locked, still waiting. Tonight's story, The Man in the Third Room, starts now. Michelle didn't tell anyone she was afraid. Not the agency, not her sister, who texted her once a week, not even herself. But by the 5th night, fear had begun to settle in her bones, like the cold. Something in that house watched her. Not Wallace, not some prowler. No, it was in the walls. And it was interested in her. The third room remained locked, yet every night Michelle would hear a soft dragging sound coming from behind it, a chair leg, or something heavier. Once, when she pressed her ear to the wood, she thought she heard breathing, shallow and wet. She went into Wallace's room after. He was facing the wall, eyes open. His hands were balled into fists against the sheets, and something reeked in there, not from him, but from the corner of the room where the wallpaper had begun to peel on its own. That night, Michelle dreamed of the hallway. She stood outside the third door, unable to move. The handle turned slowly, clicked, opened, and a small hand reached around the door frame, gray, shriveled, fingernails cracked. When she woke, she was standing in front of the third door, barefoot. The bedroom door she had locked was hanging open behind her. She checked her feet, dirty, wet with something that smelled like soil and rust. On the seventh night, Michelle broke. She pried the third door open with a kitchen knife, ignoring the cold sweat soaking her back. The door gave with a groan that echoed like a scream down the hallway. Inside was a child's room, but not new. It hadn't been touched in decades. A rocking horse leaned crooked near the window, its painted eye scratched out. A mobile hung from the ceiling, dried out, covered in cobwebs, the paper moons bleached white. A tiny bed sat in the corner, sheets thin as paper, and on it lay a doll. Porcelain, eyes wide open, dress stained dark brown at the hem. Michelle stepped forward, heart pounding, and then she heard it. Laughter, but not loud. Close. She spun, nothing there. When she looked back, the doll's head was turned, facing her. She ran, out the door, down the stairs, but when she reached the bottom, Wallace was there, standing, naked, eyes rolled back, mouth agape. His lips moved, no sound, but Michelle heard it, in her head. "You opened it." His jaw dislocated with a crack. From his mouth poured soil, teeth, and a child's shoelace. Michelle screamed and ran to the front door, locked, chained, nailed shut. She hadn't done that. Something else had. She fled back upstairs, heart pounding like thunder in her ears. The third room door was now wide open. Inside, the doll sat up. Behind it stood a child, pale, mouth stitched shut. One hand missing, and in his other hand he held the chain from the front door. Michelle screamed, slamming the door shut. And from the hallway, a voice spoke. Not a whisper now. Clear, cold. "You sleep in my room now." The next morning, Michelle was found wandering the woods behind the house barefoot, muttering the same word over and over. 3, 3, 3. Wallace was back in bed, eyes closed, and the third door was gone, replaced with bare wall and seamless wallpaper. No official report was filed. The agency denied ever sending a nurse to that house. Wallace died a week later, no family, no funeral. But if you go into the coal hills of Pennsylvania, there's a farmhouse no one talks about. And some nights, if the wind is low, you'll hear a child crying through the cracks in the wood. Not for help, but for company. If you enjoy these types of horror audio stories, just add a like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you on the next one. And if you made it this far, you're one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss what crawls out next.